Alright, so today we'll be talking about the lost years of Jesus and how it relates to astrology. We'll also touch on some of the holidays and where they fall and why they fall there. Also how some of the names of things in these religious organizations came to be are all related to either the body or the heavenly body also. Alright, so for instance, the Pope. The Pope is really means Papa or Father, because another name for Pope is Patriarch, which means Father. Comes from the Egyptian or Kemet word Ptah, which when you get the word paternal. Another title he calls himself is the Vicar or Vicar for Christ. Vicar is the root word for the word vicariously, so it means stand in for Christ. So the Pope is basically telling you that he's standing in for Christ. You can praise him until Jesus comes back. If you're not aware, the Vatican recently declared, you can Google this, they declared about 3 to 6 months ago that Jesus is never coming back. So they're doing everything but telling you it's an allegory and it's not a real person, that it's just a character. But they at least they're telling you that he's not coming back. So you can do your own research. That's the Vatican. Whether you're a Catholic or not, that church rules and set out the rules of every other denomination, whether you want to admit it or not. Whether you're a Baptist or whatever you want to call yourself, you're still working under the sanctions of the church, the Catholic Church. Another name he's called is the Pontiff, the Pontiff. That's basically referring to a part in your brain called the pons, Pons. It's a bridge or somewhere, I think it's located by your brain stem. So the main one is the one who elects the Pope every time the see vacates. It's called a cardinal. So you heard of Cardinal George, different cardinals. So what you're dealing with here with the cardinal we have 4 cardinal points. So the 4 cardinal points they represent the 4 seasons, the four gospels, the 4 horses in the book of Revelations, the world, because basically the number 4 means the world or the physical world. So whenever you see the number 4, 40 days and 40 nights, it's just talking about the world. So we're talking about, so another word for gospel, because we told you the 4 gospels. Another word for gospel means, the etymology of the word gospel means God spells. You're the God that's spelling, so God magic. So this is what this whole, my channel is about, spelling, which is magic. So God spell. So they translate it sometimes as the good news. So what is the good news? The good news is the coming of the physical world. So that 4 means good news. So you have north, east, west, and south. So that's where you get the word news from. So that's what they're talking about, the 4. North, east, west, and south is the good news that they're talking about. So that's the 4 gospels. I'll get back to Jesus and the lost years in a second. I'm going to stick with the 4. So the 4 cardinal points, what you have is 2 solstices, where the sun stays still for like about 3 days. So this is the summer solstice, somewhere around June 21st, and the winter solstice around December 21st. And the 2 equinox, or equal nights. So this one, the days and nights are pretty even. You have the fall or autumn equinox and the spring equinox in March. 2 of the gospels start off in the spring equinox. They're John and Mark. So if you go to John and Mark, they always talk about the Lamb of God, or they don't even talk about the virgin birth. So you gotta know these are allegories, because it seems pretty strange that something miraculous like that wouldn't be included in all 4 gospels. But the reason why the virgin birth is only mentioned down here in Matthew and Luke is because they starting off in Capricorn in those 2 gospels. So 2 of the gospels starting off in Aries, because they refer to Jesus as the Lamb, which is lamb or sheep, because you're dealing with Aries. All right. I can talk about the four riders. So if you go to the book of Revelations, Revelation 6, it talks about the 4 riders, the 4 horses, and the people who rode them. So what you want to separate this circle into 4 different quadrants. So quad means 4. So there's 4 quadrants. This upper half is where it's most light at. So it's the lightest up here during the summer months, and it gets dark below the equator down here. So this is the darkness. So this is the black half, this is the white half. Another way I looked at this to broke it down was, up here is when the leaves are green, they start to turn red down here. So leaves are usually green until you get around the fall, where the leaves start turning red. So having said that, the first horse they talk about is the white horse. So this is the white. It started off as it's bright. This is the brightest point up here at the summer solstice. So this is the lightest, the dog days of summer. I told you this is around June. So you're dealing with July, August, September, October. So Jason, the son of God, July, August, September, October, and November. So these are the dog days of summer. It lines up with Sirius. All right. So this is the white quadrant. This is the white horse. This is the red horse. The leaves start to turn red after the fall. So around the fall, when you fall below the equator, so autumn, that's why they call it fall. You fall below the equator and start getting dark. The leaves turn red. So now we're approaching the darkest point, which is down here. It starts around December 21st, the darkest point. So this is the black horse. So this is the third horse, or the black horse. The last horse is when it starts to get light again and the leaves start turning back green. We have the green or pale horse. All right. So those are the 4 horses. Now you want to know the 4 riders. How I looked at it, if you go look at it, you'll notice that the first horse was being ridden by a guy with a bow, I believe. So what we're dealing with is Sagittarius. So let me just tell you, Libra is riding a black horse. So this is Libra's riding a black horse. So starting right here. So these are the 4 leading up to the 4th rider. So this is Libra. From here to here is Libra. Libra is riding a black horse. Because if you look at the rider of the black horse, it has scales. So we're talking about the scales of justice. Or if we're dealing with Kemet, you're talking about Mayat. So these are the scales that they're talking about. I'm checking my notes. Scorpio is the red horse. It's the one who rides, the rider of the red horse. It says something about a sword or a blade. So I just looked at that as the tail. So you can make your own deductions, but I think it's the 4 that's going in a row. And I'll give you my reasoning, and then you can just go do your own research and come up with what you want. So this is really one talking about the swords. I just looked at it. They must be talking about the scorpion tail. All right. The third one, the white horse, is being ridden by Sagittarius. Because it says something about the rider has a bow. So you know Sagittarius is a half man, half horse. He's the archer. He's the archer of the Zodiac. So he has a bow and arrow. The last one, it talks about death, whatever have you. And this is the rider of the green horse, which is Capricorn. So it also says that person rules the 4th part of the world. So remember I told you these are quadrants. This is the 4th part of the world. So this is the last rider. And in the midst of it was a voice or something. I didn't read it. Something about barley and grain or something like that. But they're basically talking about Virgo, because you know she holds wheat in one hand and so on and so forth. So in the midst of these, or in the middle of these 4 riders, there was a voice coming out. So they're talking about Virgo. So you're dealing with the 4 riders, starting with Libra, the Scorpio, Sagittarius, and ending up in the 4th quadrant, or the darkest quadrant, in Capricorn. But in the midst of those 4 riders, a voice was yelling out. So we're talking about Virgo. All right. So that breaks down the 4 riders and the 4 horses. So 4 horses, white, red, black, green, the 4 riders, and Virgo is the voice in the midst of them. All right. So that's the astrology of that. So let me go on back to. So I was talking about the reason I brought up the Pope, because I'm going to segue into Jesus, because like I said, he's the stand-in for Christ. So I told you cardinal. So those are the 4 cardinal points. I told you how to use words that deals with the heavenly body or your physical body to name in these religions. Just like the word ordain means an ordinance, so a coordinate or ordinate inside. These are ordinates. Like these are positions in the sky, basically. So a bishop is an ordained minister, or so on and so forth. So the word ordained means ordinance. It's synonymous with ordinate. So we're just dealing with this. So for the Baptist and Christian churches, you might have a deacon who's like an usher. A deacon is actually 10 degrees. Anytime you've seen the word DEC, or Deca, means 10. That's what December is, really the 10th month. Aries is the 1st month, which is Nissan. So this is Nissan, like the car Nissan. This is really the 1st month. It usually be called Nissan. So some of these cars, you're going to find out they're dealing with astrology also. I'm going to get to another one. I'm talking about Subaru in a second. Alright, so Nissan is the 1st month, which is what we call Aries, around March 21st. They're every 10 degrees, there are 3 deacons in each sign. So you might hear people say, oh, I'm on the cusp for this sign, I'm on the cusp. Then you have those middle signs. So 3 deacons. Another word you might hear is like another name for the Pope is a bishop. 3 degrees of space in the sky is a bishop. So there are 36 deacons, so 36 times 10 is 360, because you got 3 in each house, which is 12 signs. You also got 3 bishops, 3 degrees, so there's 10 bishops in each sign. So just getting where the word bishop come from and the word deacon come from. Then you know it's all astrology when they tell you to stay away from it, but they're using it to name their officers. So that clears that up. Just FYI, each sign is basically 2 hours out the day. So Aries starts off at 6 a.m. So this would be 8 a.m. in Taurus, 10 a.m. Gemini, so on and so forth. So this just FYI if you want to know that, 6, 8, 10 going all the way around. So those are the hours of the day. Also, Aries starts off as electric. Every other sign is electric, magnetic. So that way you can know how your brain works at certain times of the day. So you'll know when, like magnetism, when you want to draw something in, that's when you want to learn stuff. Electricity is usually when you want to teach. So you want to kind of know this if you're homeschooling someone, or just it's a good way to know when to study. Electric, magnet. So just start right here. Aries is electricity at 6 a.m. and you can always just count the rest of them. So this would be 8 a.m. but this would be magnetic. This would be 10 a.m. but this would be electric, so on and so forth. All right, because you're electromagnetic beings. What else? So how does this relate? Oh, I got a chart. So I'll hold this chart up real quick. So this is the stuff I was already talking about, the equinoxes and so on and so forth. So you can pause it. You get this information down. I'll let you pause it, then you can get some of this information down. Some of the stuff I'm going to talk about now. So these are the horses and the riders, the 4 riders. Libra rides the black horse. Scorpio rides the red horse. These are talking about the 4 cardinal points, the good news, so on and forth. The 4 gospels means good news. So that's just north. It's also just the 4 points: north, east, west, and south. That's where you get the word news from. All right. If you go to Job chapter 38, verse 32, you'll see a word called Mazaroth. So it means, Mazaroth means divided or separated. It really just means the men of the Zodiac. So what you're talking about is that 360-degree circle. Another word, you got Jesus, who really is an allegory for the sun, going around Galilee. Which one? He goes around Galilee with the 12 disciples. Those are, Galilee means circle. So we're dealing with, so you would have to get, because they didn't have it in the etymology of it. I try to look it up online. I try to give you places where you can look at it for yourself and not take my word. But you can also get it in a metaphysical dictionary. I showed you this before. Galilee means circle, and some other things it means. So people's asking me for references. I'll take that time out right now. I showed you this book before. So this has a lot of tables and stuff where you can use and learn some of the things, different times of day and what corresponds to what. Now this book right here, if you don't mind reading sermons, this is called The Devil's Pulpit by Reverend Robert Taylor. He has about, I don't know, about 7 or 8 sermons he did. This is an old Christian preacher from the 1800s or something. They got jailed and exiled because he was preaching some of the same stuff. He wasn't taking the Bible literally. So he's one of the few Christians that was preaching that they were allegories, but still using them in his sermons. So that's a good book if you want to get that one. This one, because someone asked me some references for astrology. This is a good one. Reverend Bill Darlington, The Gospel and the Zodiac, The Secret Truth About Jesus. So that goes into how all 4 Gospels break down into astrology, and each sign is very detailed. Versus what I'm going to talk about is in general, the Bible goes in a certain order. So I'm going to be referring to this, what a great year and all this stuff is. So you can pause it and get that information. So now I'm going to go back to the chart. Alright, so the lost years of Jesus. So if you go Google the lost years of Jesus, you'll know they don't know what happened to him between the ages of 12 and 18. They have his birth, and then that's only in 2 of the first 2 of the Gospels. I already spoke on that. The other 2 starts with him at his baptism. So he's baptized at age 12, and he starts his ministry at age 30. So we're dealing with the numbers, same numbers. I told you they're always going to use the same numbers, 3, 7, and 12, based on the Hebrew alphabet, if you haven't seen that video. So 3 mother letters, 7 double letters, 12 single letters. So they're always going to use those numbers in allegories. And you know this stuff is allegories. Just look at the allegory. You can Google this. This is a sidebar, FYI. The allegory of when the lady touched Jesus' hem. She had been bleeding for 12 years, and her blood just suddenly stopped by touching his hem. But in that same story, he was actually on his way to see this man wanted Jesus come heal his daughter, who was 12 years old. They keep using the same numbers. You can't take these stories seriously, literally. What's the odds of the daughter that he's going to heal 12 years old, and what's the odds of a woman bleeding for 12 years? So that number 12, let's just keep throwing those numbers out for your subconscious. So 12 times 30 equals 360. So we did with a circle because he's the sun in the central and he goes around to all these different houses. Like the disciples are really just the Zodiac. Like the word, if you look up the name Philip, which is one of the disciples, it means lover of horse. Which one of the Zodiac is a lover of horse? I spoke about him already. He's the archer. So half man, half horse, or Sagittarius. Thomas, the one who doubted Jesus, is means twin, which is Gemini. So Thomas in Hebrew, the word for Thomas in Hebrew is Tammuz, Tammuz, which is really celebrated as the summer solstice anyway. So you're dealing with the month of June in the Hebrew calendar, because they go on the lunar months. The first full moon of that month is usually somewhere in June. So we're dealing with crab or Cancer sign also, because he's the only one that was looking back. The crab is known to look like it's walking backwards. That's why it's the crab of the Zodiac. The sun looks like it's crawling backwards. So he didn't want to turn on his back on Jesus until he had proof that he had been resurrected. So Thomas became kind of like the bad guy, because they dropped him down for, really he represents June, but they dropped him down. They were celebrating his feast December 21st. Only reason why they moved it because it was interfering with Christian and celebrating Jesus. But originally he was celebrated down here, you know what I'm saying, because he's a twin. They call him Thomas Didymus. Didymus is a Greek word meaning twin. So why would he be called twin? I don't know. So Thomas means twin and Didymus means twin. But the reason why he's a twin, because he's dealing with both of these solstices. Alright, so they celebrate him. They used to celebrate him December 21st. Tammuz is the month of June. So I'm just bringing all this home so you can understand. This is also where St. John is celebrated. Why St. John was celebrated in June? Because remember, Jesus was born 6 months after John was. John had disciples and stuff too before Jesus even came along. Gabriel is the angel that prophesied that John was coming when his mother was pregnant, and same for Mary when she was pregnant. But it was actually 6 months after the pregnancy of John. So you just count 6 months. So it's just 6 signs. You get them down here. So John is celebrated up here, and opposite of him is when Jesus was born down here, supposedly. Alright, so just giving you some points of reference. So 12 times 30. Okay, a great year. So Jesus traveled 1 degree at 360 degrees. It takes 72 days for the sun to move 1 degree in the sky. So if you multiply that 72 times 360 degrees, what you're going to get is what's called a great year. The great year is how long it takes the sun to travel all the way around. So it passes the equator right here and comes back around until it passes over the equator again. That's where you get the holiday Passover. But it takes 360, it takes 25,920 years to travel all the way around. So that's 1 degree every 72 days. So why the number 72 is significant? Because in Hebrew there are 72 names of God. So that's another significant number. The 72 names of God, of Yahweh, and so on and so forth. So they're number 72. So in Arabic you got 99 names, and the Hindus you got 108 names. They all add up to 9. So 108 is 9. 99 is 18 plus 1 and 8 is 9. 72 is 7 plus 2, which is 9. Alright? So that 72 is significant. So the great year is how long it takes the sun to travel all the way around. Now if you divide that by 12, because you have 12 zodiac signs, each house or each sign is approximately 2,160 years. So it takes each age is approximately. Now remember, the Bible starts off in the Taurus age. How do you know that? Well, it starts off at the end of the Taurus age. How do you know that? Because Moses was upset and broke the tablets when when he came down the mountain and he was worshiping a golden calf or a cow. So Taurus the bull, calf, bull. And then in the next stories, you start talking about Lord is my shepherd, or sheep and the flock. So you start calling your minister or whatever a pastor. Some people are referred to as pastors still to this day. All right. After that, you start going into the New Testament when you're dealing with Jesus, and what he's called the fisher of men. So you're dealing with the fish that everybody got on the back of their car, which is Pisces. And then if you go into, I think they're in all 4 Gospels, but in particular right offhand, Luke 22 verse 10, it talks about after Jesus' resurrection, he tells the disciples, go into the city, you'll see a man with a jar, a water jar. So that's just an Aquarius sign. If you look at any astrology symbol, Aquarius is a person pouring out water. So we're supposed to be entering the Aquarian age, or already in the Aquarian age now. So it starts off at the end of Bull, worshiping the cow, and goes this way. So now you might be asking yourself, why is the Bible going backwards? What you gotta understand, the days go this way. So I told you the 24 hours, a day goes this way. So you gotta imagine that the world is spinning and the sun is sitting still. So if you have a fixed point, which is the sun going this way, just imagine if the world wasn't moving, but the sun was moving. The sun would have to be going this way, because technically the world is going to the right and the sun is going down. So that's why the Bible travels, looks like it's going backwards. It's going from Taurus, instead of going to Gemini after Taurus, it goes to Aries, and then it goes to Pisces, and then it goes to Aquarius, if that makes sense. Alright. So each age is 30 degrees. I already talked about that. I told you it's 3 deacons, because they had 10 degrees of space. I think that's it. So I can talk about some of the holidays. So just know that the lost year is just an allegory for this circle. Also, when you look up that verse in Job 38, it talks about a place called Pleiades. It's just the Pleiades are basically a star cluster or a constellation. It's 7 stars, and it's located around Taurus, the bull. I'll bring it up because that's when you get the word Mazzaroth, and that talks about the Zodiac. So that's proof that you can be studying, that your religions, they shouldn't be telling you not to study the Zodiac. But the Pleiades, if you look at the Subaru logo, it has 6 stars, 1 big star and 5 little ones. That is referring to, if you Google the daughters of Atlas, it's the Greek mythology, the 7 daughters of Atlas. What happens is, to the naked eye, you can't see one of the 7 stars in that constellation, but it's in the constellation of Taurus. So that's what the Subaru logo comes from, and that's what the Pleiades really are. They're really 7 stars, but one of them you can't see. So that's why the Subaru logo only really has 6 stars. Just shows you, because I told you Aries represent a Nissan, Taurus represents Subaru logo. So these cars are playing the game too. So this stuff is all around you. You just don't know it. These companies know what they're doing. They're using these sigils and different things. They're using magic and telling you not to. All right. Some of the holidays, I kind of touched on Passover. So it's when the sun passes over, because they never really tell you that Jesus died at 33. The Last Supper is the 3rd Passover meal after he started his ministry. So they talked about. So they just extrapolated from that information that if he started his ministry at 30 and he had 3 Passover meals, it must have been 3 years later. So that's where you get the age 33. But it's really an allegory, because that's what I told you. These allegories tell more than one story. The story I'm referring to now is the astrology, or the heavenly body part. But the one about him 33 and buried in Golgotha, that's the physical body story. And I already discussed that in the other Jesus video I did. Alright. Some Jewish holiday, Rosh Hashanah, which means the head of the year, is around here. It's celebrated around September, so around the fall equinox. Why? Because it's called Judgment Day. Why do they call it Judgment Day? Because this is Libra. This is where Libra starts off at. The scales of justice again. And then 10 days later, that's Judgment Day and the Day of Atonement, which is 10 days later. Yom Kippur is their most important holidays. And they had 10 days of repentance in between. So Judgment Day is referring to Libra. So all this stuff is based on astrology. The Feast of the Circumcision. So this is not really a popular holiday, but it's celebrated January 1st. The Festival of Circumcision of Christ. So they're trying to say Jesus got circumcised 8 days after or whatever. I don't know. But they count that from December 25th. Now if you do the math, it's going to be only 7 days. They do that all the time. You notice Christians celebrate Good Friday. They said that's when he got killed, on a Friday. And then 3 days later he rose. So 3 days later would really be Monday, but they say it's Sunday he resurrected. So this is the same thing they do. They got to do anything to make the story seem true and literal. But we're dealing with astrology and how the sun stands still for 3 days and rises 3 days later. Same thing with the circumcision. The word circumcision is 2 words. Circum, which is circle, and scission, which means sizer or scissors or cutting. So they just cut a new year. Remember, the new year really starts off in March. Aries is the first month, the Nissan. That's how you know, because the 10th month, December should be the 10th month, not the last month. It should be 10th month. All right. So they just cut it off to make a new. That's what they. If you Google Festival of Circumcision of Christ, it's going to be celebrated on January 1st. So that's how you know. They just cut the year, cut the circle, cut Galilee, cut the Mazzaroth, so on and so forth. All right. And now they got people literally cutting their son's genitals. So you don't have to get your child circumcised if you don't want to. If it's something you think they can't keep clean, that's a fallacy. I know my son is not circumcised. He keeps it clean, and he's only 2 years old. Alright. I think and Lent comes before, it's the 40 days before Passover. So you're dealing with Lent somewhere around February or whatever have you. Lent, L-E-N-T, is just another word for when the days are going to get longer or lengthen. All they did is take the G and the H out. L-E-N-G-T-H. They just shortened it to L-E-N-T. And the first day of Lent is Ash Wednesday. I already talked about ashes and what they mean if you don't raise this energy up. But that's all Lent is, the 40 days. We're talking about 4 again, the world coming into, the sun is coming into equator. Alright, being born again. So light is being born again. That's what this is all about. Up here is the light half. This is the dark half. Alright? Because these same 3 months, even though 3 days rest, these same 3 months is the 3 days that he was actually in the grave also, or gravity. Christmas is an obvious one. I have to go to. Easter is the same thing as Passover. Christians just needed a way to celebrate the New Testament stuff, to disregard the Old Testament stuff. Most Christians only use the Old Testament to prove their points of supporting that Jesus is the coming Messiah, so on and so forth. So they had to have Easter in relation to Passover, because Easter relates to the resurrection of Jesus. Passover relates to something else. I forget what they said. Yeah, they try to make it like it's something about the blood, or put blood on the houses of the firstborn who got circumcised. Some stuff. That's crazy. Alright, last one I just want to talk about is Halloween. It used to be called Hallows Eve. Hallow is another word. H-A-L-L-O-W is just another word for holy. So Hallows Eve is around October or whatever, so it's not really important. But it used to be called Hallows Evening. It's got shortened to Halloween or Halloween. The reason why I bring this up, I did a video, if you haven't seen it, on altars, making altars, and I made a comment about an ancestral altar. You have to, and I'm pretty sure I said this before in my magic videos, but you need to know the difference between an ancestor and an archetype. When you want something that or mundane or earthly needs, like say for instance, most people do this when they first start messing with magic. They probably want to get a boyfriend or something to do with a relationship, boyfriend or girlfriend. So when you're dealing with love on that level, that's a physical. You have to deal with an ancestor, someone who's been here in the flesh before. Archetypes for love would be something like Venus. You can't call on Venus to get you a boyfriend. Venus is a love, like a love of yourself, a higher love. When you love people and love humanity and love stuff like that. That's when you're dealing with archetypes, an archetype of love. An ancestor would be someone that you knew had a successful marriage perhaps, or something like that. So you might want to put them on your altar. So just know the difference between an ancestor and an archetype. So another example would be David is really an archetype. His son Solomon is an archetype. Solomon is just an archetype for wisdom. So if you want to deal with wisdom or gaining wisdom, you might want to use the archetype for Solomon. However, Solomon is really King Tut. His story is loosely based on King Tut, and his father David is loosely based on Akhenaten. So if you want to deal with those people really was in the physical flesh. So you can do some research on Akhenaten or King Tut and put them on your altar if you want to deal with some physical stuff, if that makes sense. So just know that. You got to know the difference between what kind of altar you're dealing with. It's okay to put archetypes. You can put, like I said, I deal with Amen, the God Amen. So I can put a ram-headed deity on my altar, but I also put my mother on there because her name is a variation of Amen Ra. It's Ramona, Ra, Amon. Okay, so I can put pictures on her, so I can deal with her on an ancestral level, and I can deal with Amen on a higher level. All right, so that's just going back to my altar video. So like I said, you can just take notes. There's nothing down here but the holidays. And I'll just bring it a little bit closer. And that's it.